there, and welcome to math class. In this video, we are going to be looking at connecting fractions to division. The two go hand in hand, and I want you to see how they fit together. So the only memory piece you need for this lesson is item number 8. It is the QRD block, and I will show you how to use that. So if you just make sure that you have that ready to go. There are no flashcards that I know of. We've already done the terms, so you won't have to do those again. And I'm going to move my QRD over here for just a minute. Okay, so let's give our page a title. It's called Connect Fractions to Division. And I'm going to increase my pen size just a little bit. When I'm zoomed in, it's hard to make that pen size just right. It's either too small or too large. And I'm writing very largely, so let's come over here. Fractions to division. It's early in the morning, so I ask you to bear with me. And it's turned very cold. I'm amazed at how cool it is today. I love it, but it's definitely colder. Okay, connect fractions to division. And here's the first thing I want you to realize. Not a lot of folks realize that a fraction is one way to write or to show division. Let's say to show. A fraction is one way to show division. And I want to use just a very basic example of this. I want you to write down this problem. And back a little bit earlier in our course, we learned all about division. We did vocabulary for division. And if you have been studying your flashcards, you are going to know that these terms still apply. Quotient, dividend, and divisor. Remember those terms, quotient, dividend, and divisor. 12 divided by 4 equals 3. Well, a fraction is just another way to show that. 12 divided by 4 equals 3. It's another form of division. So you have a dividend, you have a quotient, and this is the divisor. So all of the parts of the first division problem are still here. We have our dividend, which is the 12, and here it is. And I've misspelled that. I don't know why, but I always want to put a T on there. My brain hears a T and not a D. So a dividend, a divisor, and a quotient. So you see all the parts are there. Means exactly the same thing. And in fact, in algebra books, you will use this second way. You don't, as you get into more advanced math, you don't use the little house. You use this formal way of writing division. It also works with fractions less than a whole. So let's consider the fraction 1/2. And I'm not going to get into dividing decimals today. We're just going to look at fractions. But I want you to think, what is half of $1? How much money is half of $1? Well, that's 50 cents. So instead of writing a whole number like we did in the first one, you can get a decimal. Here are some others. What is a fourth of a dollar? That is a quarter. What is 3/4 of a dollar? That is 75 cents. So proper fractions will equal decimals when you divide them. When you have proper fractions like 1/2, 1/4, and 3/4, you will get decimal answers when you divide. And later on, I'm going to teach you how to divide decimals. But for today, let's just use the ones that we can relate to money-wise. I just wanted to show you that so that you would know that they're not always whole numbers that you get when you have division with fractions. So let's look at this one. Here's a question let me pose to you. So what if there's a remainder and let's look at some examples of this. Let's take the fraction 9/4. And I want to tell you just a couple of things before we do this. First of all, I notice that this is an improper fraction. So I'm going to expect a remainder. It's top heavy. There will be a remainder. I also notice that, well, let's just leave it at that. I don't want to get you confused. So let's do 9 divided by 4 and work this out with long division. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And that leaves me with 1 left over. So I still have the dividend. I still have the quotient. And I still have the divisor. But this time I also have this piece that we call the remainder. Okay, now we're ready for the memory piece. Let me bring this over and put it down here for you. And this is where you have to think QRD. Once you get a remainder, that's what this R stands for right here. So this stands for remainder. You want to guess what Q stands for? Quotient. And the D could be dividend or divisor. It's always going to be divisor. Okay? So, if you make a QRD for this picture, let me draw myself a box, and I put it in a box. A lot of people ask me, why don't you just write it? Because I want this image to stick in your brain. I want you to remember that when you see a problem with a remainder, it could be a QRD. So here's how we translate our answer. We take the quotient, which is the 2. Quotient is Q, and that's going to sit right here. There's Q. R is the remainder, and D is the divisor. You don't put the dividend in here anywhere because we broke the dividend down. In a sense, the dividend is gone because we broke it down into 2 and 1/4. So quotient, remainder, divisor, QRD. So here is my final conclusion. 9/4 is equal to the mixed number 2 and 1/4. If you remember when we did our terms, We said that every improper fraction has a mixed number, and this is how you find that mixed number. Don't panic on me here. We're going to do lots of examples of QRD. Okay, let's try another one without all that note stuff. Let's try 68 divided by 8. 68 divided by 8. It is improper, which means there is a mixed number that goes with it. So let's find our mixed number. 68 divided by 8. 8 can't go into 6, but let's do 8 into 68, and I'm just going to count these multiples, these iterations on my fingers. Instead of writing them all down, I think we're to the point that we can count in our heads if possible. Now if this were an 81, I couldn't do that as easily, but an 8, I know my multiples. So 8 times 1, and I encourage you to use your fingers to do this. I'll have 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64. And that's on my 8th finger. 8 eighths are 64. So there is the remainder. So you do your division, and then you put in your QRD. You put it in QRD form. So here is not a very good box. I'm going to copy and paste this when I ever get it to draw correctly. There we go. So you make this space and this space. This is the mixed number. It's part fraction and it's part whole number. It's mixed. Okay, so the quotient is 8, the remainder is 4, and the divisor is 8. So 68 eighths is equal to 8 and 4 over 8. But we are not quite finished, because 4 eighths can reduce. And if you watch the videos with the terms, you saw in Math Antics how this works. 2 into 4 is 2, 2 into 8 is 4. But it will still reduce. And I should have just used a 4 to start with, but I wanted you to see how you can use 2, but you just have to do it twice. So my final answer is that 68 over 8, the improper fraction, is equal to 8 and 1/2 as a mixed number. So this is improper, and this is mixed. Okay, let's look at some more. We've only done 2 examples, so if you're still feeling a little rough, hang with me here. We're going to fill up another page with examples, and I am going to show you how to do this on the calculator for those of you who have the calculator. This is on some employment tests I've seen, so even if you're not preparing for HiSET or another test, you may be watching this for employment information. So I want to be sure that I do a good job of explaining to you how to do these. And as always, if you have problems with this, contact your instructor. Let's do 25 fourths. It's top heavy, so there is a mixed number that will go with it. So let me come over here and write out my division problem. 25 divided by 4. 4 will not go into 2. And let's figure out the 25. Again, I'm going to use my fingers to count off those iterations. So I have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. And that happens at the 6th iteration. So 24 with a remainder of 1. So this time, when I put together QRD, I get 6, 1, 4. 25 fourths is equal to 6 and 1 fourth. Okay, another example. I'm having iPad issues this morning. Okay, another example. Let's do 47 over 5. I can count by fives much easier than I can other numbers. I always liked it when my denominator was a 5. So 47 divided by 5. 5 cannot go into 4. So let's count using your fingers, if that helps you, the iterations of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. 50 is too big. So I'm going to back off and use the 9, at which point I had a 45. So when you QRD, and guys, if you don't need this box, that's fine. It's just a memory device to help you remember to put in Q, quotient, 2, and remainders 2, divisor is 5. And that is 9 and 2/5. I want to show you a little something here that helped me when I was in school. I realized that this number and this number will always be the same because that's the divisor in both situations. The 5, if there's a 5 on the bottom here, there's a 5 on the bottom here. Always. Now let's back up and look at this one. You say you just told me always, and then that doesn't match. This is where it will match in the improper mixed number. Now this 2 has been reduced, so that is not going to hold true. But in the box, in the QRD box, the 8 matches the 8 from the improper form. And that will always help you to know if you've got the... Sometimes people get confused as to which D I'm talking about. It's always the divisor. Okay, another example. I do that on purpose. I distracted you with something else. I want to see if you can remember how to do this after being distracted. Sometimes when we sit and just do these over and over and over, your brain just gets in a groove, and it just does it because we're in the groove. But distract yourself and come back and see if it still makes sense. And that's a good way to know if you've learned what you need to. If you can be distracted and come back and still know what you're doing, that's a very good sign. Let's do a bigger one. Let's do 365 over 10. Because sometimes these are not just nice little short problems. Sometimes they can be pretty large problems. So 365 divided by 10. 10 cannot go into 3, but it goes into 36. 10, 20, 30. It'll go 3 times. And that leaves me with 6. And then 10 into 65 is 6 times with a remainder of 5. So when you put together QRD, you have 36 and 5 over 10. So you bring that back, match it up right there, 36 and 5 over 10. There my tens match up as they should. But we're not finished. We have to simplify. So I'm going to use a 5. That's the only thing that will work here. 5 into 5 is 1, and 5 into 10 is 2. So the final answer I'm looking for is 36 and a half. You want it to be a mixed number in lowest terms. Okay, the next one I want to show you some calculator steps for those of you who may be watching for the HiSET exam. We use the Casio FX260 calculator, so I'll give you the keystrokes for that one. If you need help with another calculator, you'll need to see your instructor. So here is the problem. We've got 1360 over 425. Now, if you have a problem this big, I think that you will have a calculator. So I'm going to draw my calculator buttons. If you want to draw those too, I like to draw them so they don't get mixed up with my problem or the numbers don't. You need 5 of them this time, and I'm just going to copy and paste rather than try to get all these to be the same size and look the same. And boy, am I not doing a good job. Let me move these two up just a hair. I usually record these videos on Fridays, so you guys are getting me at the end of the week when I'm very tired. I apologize. Okay, your first keystroke should always be all clear, and your last one should always be equals. So that's sort of something, a habit that you need to develop. Going to put your dividend in first, just like you would with any division problem. And then your divisor comes second out here. The key that changes on this one, if you hit divide right here, you're going to get a decimal. We don't want a decimal, we want a mixed number. So we're going to use the fraction key. And the fraction key is above the 7. It's a couple of keys above 7. It looks like this, the ABC. That is called the fraction key. And I think this may be the first time you and I have looked at this. So let's label it, call it the fraction key. The others are keys that you've used all along. So I'm going to type this in my calculator. It's 1360 ABC 425 equals, and you get this. Okay, that is QRD. We just have to put it in the right form. We have 3, 1, 5. 3 and 1/5. Your calculator will automatically take it to lowest terms for you. So this big old number over here is equal to 3 and a 5th. And I would encourage you to go back through and put these in your calculator just for practice. Even though we've worked them longhand, it's still a good way to do that. Okay, let me show you one other thing. Let's suppose you wanted to take 3 and 1/5 and figure out the improper form. So maybe you need to know the improper form of 3 and 1/5. So let me show you how to do that on your calculator as well, because there are times when we need to do that. So please tell me I do have my buttons. If this is the case, you will need, I believe it's 6 this time, but I could be wrong. I'm trying to count these in my head. let's see if this works out. So we have all clear, 3, ABC 5. So you put, 1 5. You have to put the mixed number in, and that means you have to do your fraction key twice. So we're going to do all clear, 3 ABC, 1 ABC, 5. And look at your screen. Make sure that you have 3 and a 5th. Sometimes we're so focused on the buttons that we forget to look at the screen. And then you're going to need to press the Shift key. That is the very first key. It has no writing on it. And then your ABC key again. So Shift, ABC, and you're going to get 16/5. And you may be thinking that is not what we started with way up there. But remember, your calculator does lowest terms. This big number that we started with right here is higher terms. But what I can tell you is that this big number right there equals 16/5 in lowest terms. So what your calculator's doing is giving you a lowest terms answer. So what we can say right here, where that question mark was, is that it's 16/5. I recommend that you watch this segment of the video at least one more time. Practice typing this in if you're going to need the calculator somewhere, because this is not the easiest thing in the world to do. And if you don't practice it, you will not remember it. And I would practice all of these. See if you can get QRD for those improper fractions. And we will be using this skill as we move through more of our material. Okay, I will see you in the next video, where I believe we are looking at common denominators. So have a good day, and I will see you soon.